That is.
Now we're recording.
You're good.
We're good to go? All right, again, welcome to the April 1st, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting. Let the record show that myself and Mr. Jones is here in the house. Mr. Lisby is on the phone with us, and he will be participating. And again, the governor has declared that we can do this, and so he is active in the meeting today. First thing up is our pandemic pay policy for ordinance number 2020-003. And this is a kind of revised, I think, from what we did last time. Is that right?
That is correct. You passed a generalized pay ordinance, and this is the policy that will be an attachment to that ordinance for more specifics and details on how we actually handle the payroll calculations based on the departments. And EMS obviously is a little bit different, so we've developed with Wagner, Irwin, and Sheely's office. It's different than what you saw, but it's a hazardous, it's pandemic hazardous pay stipend. For each 24-hour shift, that person will be eligible for a $100 stipend rather than comp time or something in lieu. They'll get their regular pay as normal with the overtime, but it's worked out to be almost equivalent and something that would be encouraging for people to come to work, and also part-timers that might be needed for extra help, that would be a little bit of a bonus to them to help EMS actually get the help that they need during some strained times. So again, this has not been before council, so you guys are getting the first read on it, and then they will take a look at it and think about the budget constraints and may have to, amend it to a certain extent later. But this is for this first wave from the 25th of March to April the 7th.
Okay, so this will just be through April the 7th,
Yes.
the first wave of it. All right.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So, because of the payroll, the way payrolls fall, I don't know how this is going to change April the 7th. So how are you going to go beyond that? We'll do it retroactively sometime around the 15th.
April the 10th payroll includes April 23rd through this full week here. So this is our only entire week of pandemic overlap. That first week has 3 days that's not, 4 days on, and then the next week there would be 3 days off, on pandemic and the rest off. So the April 10th pay date and then the April 24th pay date would both have pandemic pay times in them. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No.
Okay.
Does this go, I thought this just went till April the 7th.
The governor's order doesn't. So
Oh,
I'm talking about, those are the only days that this policy here would apply to, would be March 25th through April the 7th. It wouldn't include any days before that or after that. That would be the next two pay dates we make.
so he needs to change, he needs to go forward past April the 7th for you to go past April 7th.
I see what
Right.
you're saying. Yes.
I thought has the governor came back and changed this to the 30th?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know that. Maybe, I don't know.
I was thinking that he had, but I may be wrong.
I thought he had too.
I thought he had said that we would continue in place until April 30th at this time. Is what I understood it to be, but we will double check that and make sure the district, because we can always come back and do it.
Yeah.
Just extend it.
Extend this, yes.
What we talked about, what Tammy and I talked about yesterday on this is it is till April the 7th. If you go beyond that, you have to renew this or come up with something completely different, whatever you
Okay.
decide to do.
Okay.
The last statement on there explains that the commissioners and council reserve the right to modify this, because there could be constraints such as financial constraints and whatnot, because again, we don't know how long we're in this for. But this is going to cover my next two payrolls.
Okay. John, did you hear that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. You're not cutting out, but you are. I'm having a little trouble here, but yeah, I got it.
Okay. Okay.
So let me clarify. So everybody that's a county employee right now is getting paid their regular hours.
Correct.
If EMS they're working their 24-hour shifts, but at the end of their 24-hour shifts, they're getting a $100 stipend, is that what you're saying?
Yes, for each 24-hour shift they pull.
So that technical, that's kind of like, what do you call it?
They call it pandemic hazard.
It's
Pay or
hazard,
something.
hazard duty pay.
Yes, hazard duty pay.
So that's a given for anybody who completes a 24-hour shift?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we had a question already, what if I have a part-timer that just pulls a 12? Well, then it'd be $50.
Okay. All right.
All right, I'll entertain a motion here on the,
And let me clarify one other thing.
Okay.
because Mike was bringing it. I know we keep throwing up April 6th, with April 6th on, or 6th or 7th on Monday, Tuesday. Are we putting a timeline on this, or is it up? I mean, because I'd rather just leave instead of coming back, because, you know, today's the 1st, the next meeting, if we have one, will be the 15th. I mean, we're gonna wait and come back the 15th and do something again, or are we gonna put a date on this, an artificial date, and say it's April 30th, or until the emergency's lifted, or, because we can change, you know, and I'm talking, I don't think we as a county is gonna change anything different than what the state's recommending. So if the state's saying it's this day, or, you know, day to day, or after another 30 days, and I think we need to be on that same boat, so we don't have to keep coming back and you know, and if it changes, we can say, hey, it stops today. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
So what
you
you
know.
gotta think about is money.
yeah.
This 2 weeks' time we're talking about here on this policy.
Well,
If you extend it another 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, we're gonna have to discuss budgetary matters.
well, the kicker with this $100 stipend, or whatever you're calling it, that's only strictly to the EMS, correct?
The technicians, Tyler and Pat and Danny.
So anybody
They're
that's
under
riding
the
the
comp
truck,
time.
anybody that's running on the truck
Right.
is going to.
Right.
Okay, so, I mean, their regular pay is gonna stay the regular pay and budgeted for that. The only thing we're talking about is $100 per person every 24-hour shift.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've
So,
been in all the discussions about this, because Tammy did this with Kenover and some last night and some this morning. I think that's in lieu of any comp time, right, Tammy?
That is, there is no
If they
comp
take the
time for
$100
EMS.
stipend, they don't have any comp time.
Yes,
Which
so,
other employees that work do.
They can do the comp time.
yes,
Yes, okay.
yes. Because that way, if they take it off by December 31st, as you can see is one of the
yes.
constraints there, that our budgets will cover that, because we're already budgeted to pay them all year, and if they take it off by December 31st, they're just basically gonna reverse the roles. The people that's off now are gonna be working when these people take off later. So it's, you know, and then they're gonna use it before they take care of any other PTO or any other comp time that they use, so it's gonna be gone.
I also think the federal government, I've been on a couple of those conference calls, they're looking at something to pay hazardous duty pay to people anyway, so there might be something that we get reimbursed down the road for some of this that we're doing already, so.
And again, and I know we've talked about this before, but we are keeping track of everything.
Yes, people have been.
Because FEMA, I know there will be some monies, I think, through FEMA that will come available, or maybe a percentage back or something of that nature, so let's make sure we do that. So,
I'm good. I'll make-
I do think that, I do agree with you, that we can put this in place for the duration, I guess you could say, of the
State of emergency.
state of emergency. Let's do that.
That's what I would put in there.
I'm gonna advise against that strictly from the budgetary. So everybody's working upstairs, everybody's working in this courthouse building up comp time.
Well, let me
Well, first of all, they
get in
should
on
be
this.
doing that
I want to hear
in
this right. This is basically going to be just during the pandemic, and when that's back, when we're back off from that, we'll go back to normal.
Yes, yes, actually, it would be just for what following the state guidelines as a state of emergency, and what the governor ask people to stay at home and people to, basically non-essentials to be able to stay home. This is just to cover that time period. And you may know, John, I mean, we was just talking about this, I understood the governor to extend this through the 30th of April. Is that correct? Do you?
That's what I understood.
And so at that point, you know, this was just basically going to be through the 7th of April. But as Mike was saying, I think that, you know, there's no need to getting back together. Is I think we're probably going to try to follow the guidelines set forth by the state on what we do here. So at that point, I think, and again, we can rescind this at any time. And the last part of it, the last part of this says that the Scott County Commissioners and the Scott County Council reserve the right to modify the pandemic pay policy upon the particular circumstances and financial constraints of each public health emergency. So, Mr. Houston.
I think the commissioners can pass it the way they want to, and then if the council, because they're the ones that approve the expenditure of the money, if they want to modify it, they can do, y'all can't do anything about that anyway.
That's true.
So I think the policy's in effect the way y'all want to do it, and if they want to modify it, then they're not going to get paid. So
Okay.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I'm gonna go back to something that was said a minute ago about people upstairs getting comp time. There shouldn't be anybody getting comp time right now. Because we talked about when this first started, that you're either working or you're off. And if you're working, then you get paid your regular time. And if you're at home, you're getting paid your regular time. I mean, so who's here that's getting paid for being off and getting paid comp time as well?
That's part of the Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. You pay pandemic pay, everybody gets regular pay, and you scale back as to few as people as possible during this, and those people accrue comp time for use later. So it's like you're reversing it, and that's what they say you have to do to be able to treat people the same.
So in the ordinance that I watched the city of Scottsburg put in, it didn't have anything in there where you were going to do that, and as well as paying them comp time plus regular time. I mean, so who determines who's going to be sitting around in an office that nobody's doing anything in the first place?
That's the commissioner's call.
I
Because
thought,
that's what Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy told me, that the commissioners form essential list. That list is given to me, and those are the people that are allowed to earn comp time during pandemics.
I don't like that at all. So I think you're either out of this building or you're working. And if you're working, it's regular time. I mean, I don't know how we're paying somebody and why they're working there or why they're getting paid or getting comp time. So
But there are people being paid to be home.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
But then
And
the
that was
people
the
that-
ordinance that we wrote, was that if you're home, then you're getting paid regular time. And we even said that we need to watch how we do this, because somebody's going to say, well, if I have to come in, well, if you have to come in, then you're on the clock. But it's not that time plus the time. It's either you're paying regular time because you came to work. You know, because we were talking actually about the highway department, and we were saying if a chance these guys are sitting home and they don't get called in because of a snowstorm or whatever, then all of a sudden they're getting called in. They go off that, you know, the regular time, and they can actually create overtime if they work beyond their 8 hours for that day. But to pay somebody comp time and then pay them their regular check, I just don't understand that.
Well, the way it was explained to me, and Bob, you can jump in if you want to, is that if you're paying people to be at home and they're not, this is special circumstances to avoid ghost employment. To a certain extent, that ordinance was passed to cover us, because we're paying people to not work. We're paying people to not work in these emergency circumstances. So the people that are working, if they were told to sit home, just because of what they do, they're being treated differently. So you have to give them comp time to make up for that difference.
I don't agree with that. I mean, I'm sorry, but so.
I've got, say for example, Mandy came in and worked, and she got the bills paid. Well, later on in the year, according to this policy, I would be able to give her 10 hours comp time to take off later, that she worked while people were sitting at home being paid. So she just gets to reverse it, and it's still in my same budget, still paid out the same as these people being paid now. It's just that we're gonna have to pitch in while she's gone and do work. While I could, you know, it's,
I guess where I come from with that is that, as a county, we determined that for the health of the county employees, that we would close the courthouse and send everybody home unless somebody needed to come in and do something like payroll or something that was an essential job. But no time did I ever think that we were going to pay that person plus give them comp time for them coming in. I mean, that's not what I thought I voted on the last time. And I probably wouldn't vote on it again this time because, you know, you have the luxury of being home getting paid, but if you come in, then that's, you know, we're gonna pay you extra. I mean, I guess we could do like Park County and Floyd County is doing and have the courthouse open except for the public and say, come to work and set your office. So, I mean, I don't understand the double standard there, so.
well, and there's no overtime, except for EMS, according to this policy for anybody during, because pandemic pay doesn't count towards overtime. So nobody would, if you have a sheriff's deputy right now, for example, under this policy, they would get 40 hours pandemic pay. And if they work their 40-hour shift, they would have 40 hours comp time in their bank to use later in the year. That's how this policy is written.
So, I mean,
Wagner
I guess my question is,
right.
the policy we wrote, that you wrote up last time, why are we changing it? Who decided that somebody jumped in and changed the policy?
That was sent, that was actually, part of this was read at the last meeting, that Irwin's office, I had it in your packet. And the ordinance that you had was the basic to just, if this payroll thing happens before anybody gets back together and things change, it covers me from the ghost
I
employment.
understand that for the state board of
But
counties.
this was meant to be policy that Irwin's office sent down to administer policy of pay while we're in a pandemic situation. And that, the purpose of this is to attach to what the ordinance was the last time.
So who determines if they're essential and they're gonna come in here and create comp time?
According to that, it's the commissioners. You guys make your list, and that's what I go by, because that's who's gonna be authorized to receive the comp time.
But you're saying,
We could have them come in, or you could have them.
I don't understand why we're paying somebody twice. I mean, if you're at home or you're coming here. I mean, you know, so I don't know why we're, you know, I understand, okay. I don't agree.
Let me ask this question here, as we've been into this a week, and, this is, so the ones that's in the courthouse now, that's been in here for a week, would probably be the only ones we're dealing with, correct?
Anybody that has put any hours in between March the 25th and April the 7th would be the only ones we would be talking about getting any additional time off from work with pay, not additional pay,
And that
just
would-
time off.
And that would be everybody that's an hourly employee.
Yes.
So like right now, I think in your office, Mandy's been in here
And
and
Trina,
Trina.
because I am.
So there's two, basically. What about the other offices? Do you have any idea?
The
But
recorder,
there's such a gentleman back there that would certainly, would be, I think, because he's been here working, would be, so there's three people. We're not talking a great deal on number of people here, probably.
Well, you were saying upstairs, I mean, who's upstairs that's coming
that's
here?
that is between you and the judges on who they decide is essential and not essential during these times. Because it's a commissioner function, Wagner and Shealy told me it's a commissioner function to determine, and you can read in that first part of that you guys set the essential employees. If you work with the judges and say they need a reporter and they're gonna come in and do something, then that person would be the only one in that courtroom that would be getting, the comp time later to use. Because most of the clerical offices, to explain it, we just pitch together and help during an absence. EMS is different because they have to actually pay somebody to substitute somebody when they're off. We don't. It's just trading time for time. We're just trading time work for
What
overtime work.
What about the sheriff's office? They get extra time too?
Yes, according to Irwin's office. if
So they
do-
get that, they get a day off for every day they work?
Mhm. According to Irwin's
How are we gonna
policy,
afford that?
it's comp time.
No, how are we gonna afford it?
I know,
So we're-
that's why.
So they all work, so they're all gonna be off
So,
before the end of the year?
before the end of the year.
And it has to be used before they take any of their PTO or anything out. This is
Yeah.
gonna be used, and their PTO will stay, yeah, you can check it out with
Then we
Irwin's
got
office.
911. so-
I'm under their guidance.
Well, wait a minute, let's get this. Just because they think it's a good idea, doesn't mean it is.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
I mean, it might be, but I don't see how you can operate the sheriff's office like that.
I mean, they're on their hazardous pay right now. They're carrying a gun and it could be shot at every day, so. But I just don't see how you single that out. I mean, and I don't like this
We can't-
policy
We
whatsoever.
can't operate like that. We can't operate the jail.
Mike, I see what you're saying now. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, heck, if you're at that sense, you're not gonna have money, because we're paying somebody every 2 days to get a day
We're
off. I
paying
mean,
3 right now that work at school that we wasn't planning on paying.
yeah. Well, but you also got, well,
John, you wanna weigh in on this?
Well, I'm hearing that. I knew this was gonna be a big cluster, because, you know, we had to do what we had to do, but pay things all out of whack. And do we have anybody that's actually working from home, or are they just going home?
We,
Upstairs,
upstairs,
they have people working from, Andrew, how many laptops is what out here?
7, 8.
8 laptops.
but all from upstairs.
Correct.
Well, most of the, I think we've talked about this before, most of the jobs in here can't be done at home. I mean, they have to be
That's
here
why my
to be
staff
able to do
isn't
the
here.
job.
that's
And
why I've been
There's a
here
lot of
every day,
scanning,
except
printing,
Friday.
yeah.
physically handing stuff
Yeah.
to enter.
So I mean, there's, whoever's working from home, it has to be a small list. I mean,
That's
Yeah, I would want
basically
the
my point.
office holders or department heads to have to verify they're actually working. It wouldn't be just they can go home and, you know, and do nothing. I'd like to have some verification that if they're actually working their 8 hours, I personally don't see why their pay would be any different. If they're actually working, they just may not be present in the building. And other people that's sent home for their own health issues, that's not their fault. But how do we pay them? I don't know. Tammy, I know you're working hard on that. so.
I have been in contact with so many different people in so many different departments, and also Wagner, Irwin, and Sheely's office sent the skeleton policy down, which is what you had in your last meeting packet. The difference in what they sent and what I've got before you is that I had to detail it out for our type of employees that we have. Not every county has EMS, you know. I had to tweak it to fit us, but it's their basic policy. And she said that her first words to me, and I asked her the question, I said, I'm afraid I'm not gonna get this right. And she said, you don't have to do anything. She said, you don't have to pay people to be home.
yeah, but we're telling somebody in the federal government, the state government, everybody else is telling people to stay home. So if it's, I mean, that money's budgeted anyway, and this is where I came from that. They're budgeted to get paid. And for us to save the health of our employees, I don't have a problem with paying them to stay home. I mean, they may not be doing anything at home. They may be mowing the grass. I mean, but they're healthy and they're not in here scared to death that they're gonna catch something.
But we're requiring people to come into the courthouse and work and expose themselves to other people who
Nobody's
might be
here.
working in there.
Nobody's there.
It just takes 2 people.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
you know.
But I'm just saying,
But there's-
if we're
there's-
requiring some to come in, they're not getting anything different for being
That's-
required to come in.
Well,
And I think that's why they wrote it that way.
I guess
I'm not saying
don't be an essential person then, I guess, because the
that
way.
we won't get paid, because I've got one essential person that pays everybody every 2 weeks.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, and what we talked about was that if you're an essential and that person comes in one day a week and pays everybody, I mean, that is an essential person. If you don't want to do that, don't come in here. We'll get somebody else to make payroll. I mean, I guess, but I don't see where 90% of the time we're giving you can sit at home and not do anything, and we're asking you to come in one day and do payroll, and you're going to ask for comp time. Or I don't even go there asking, because they're not asking for it. But we're going to dictate, or have an HR department tell us that we're going to dictate that we're going to pay them additional. But
I'm gonna tell you, after this is over, if that happened and everybody got their straight pay, the people that came in and worked are gonna be asking, what do I get for coming in and working? You don't know the conversations that I've had already.
Well, you got a job, I guess. I mean, if you don't
I
want.
understand, I know where you're coming from.
And the flip of that is, we could say, you know what, we're not gonna pay you at all. Go draw unemployment or do whatever, why we're shut down, but we're not gonna do that. So in turn, I mean, we're given a benefit here, and we're asking a little bit back for a benefit. And, you know, if you're not willing to do that, I mean, I guess we could have said, you know, go home and we're not paying you. You know.
And essentially, you either pay during a pandemic or you don't. And you treat people essentially the same. I'm in between this with you guys. It's not my policy. It's whatever you guys want to pass or adopt and what council wants to deal with. I'm just your quasi-HR person. So it could have been you or anybody else making this policy with Wagner, Owen, and Shealy, but me.
Well, the other part of this is, and Bob brought up about the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department's not mentioned in here.
Because they're hourly and they're covered under the hourly.
Well,
EMS works, sheriff's departments don't have built-in overtime. They're to work their 40-hour week, 80 in 2 weeks, actually, they're on 7K rule. But EMS is a 24-hour shift with built-in overtime.
But nowhere in here is it mentioned the sheriff's department, so in turn, unless he had brought it up that they're gonna work 2 days and get a free day, I mean, I wouldn't have known that, and we're not okaying that. I mean, so where in this should we put that?
It's the same thing for 911. 911's not differentiated from that, and they run a 24/7 department.
Yeah, but there nobody's in there to see them. I mean, they're locked in a building.
No, but they're included with the 40 hours comp time too. No, but they're not treated nobody's treated any different in this policy, whether they're 911 or sheriff or somebody works 35 hours a week or 40 hours a week. It's all pandemic straight time pay, and then whenever they are coming into work, it's comp time for time they worked during the pandemic.
So you're saying, saying right now that the sheriff's department, they're getting their regular pay, and if they work, they're getting overtime.
No overtime.
Or comp time, or whatever.
They'll get
so they're
comp
getting, they're technically getting double pay.
Down to switch out when, yeah.
So here's the other problem that I see we need to think about a little bit. As an example, let's get away from the sheriff's department a minute. Think about the entire health department. So this goes on for 2 months, and the entire health department is there for 2 months. So at the end of 2 months, the entire health department says we're going to leave, and we'll be back in 2 months. Because that's what you're saying. Because they get all that time off, right?
Not together, not one time. That
Well,
would be up to Michelle.
Okay, we get half for 8 weeks and the other half for 8 weeks, and all of a sudden it's November.
I think
And you can't run that. You
I
can't
think
run,
we're actually.
we can't run our government that way.
I think we're actually creating a problem
I
that
do
we.
too. I mean, we might be.
I didn't think
It's your
about that.
decision.
Pardon me.
It's your decision.
I know. I think we're creating a problem that we didn't have before. I mean.
Well, I'd be glad to pay everybody straight time everywhere, every place, and then I will give them your all's phone numbers, and you can tell them when they're not going to get anything extra. Because it's not my policy.
Here's the other way to do it. Another thought. I mean, this is not my decision either. What if everybody just came to work?
That solves everything.
But this is the reason I brought it up, past beyond the 7th, is
Yeah.
we, when we made this policy, basically was looking at 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We might be looking at 2
Things have
months,
changed.
Yeah.
or it may be long.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, if you're gonna pass this, don't pass it beyond the 7th.
This is just,
If you don't
again,
wanna-
14
if
days.
you don't- If you
I'm
wanna
not-
pass something beyond the 7th, don't pass this.
Well, I don't like this at all, so.
Well, here's and I see what Mike's saying there. Again, if we do this, by passing this one just till the 7th, because we're already got 5 days in it, right, or 6, something like that now,
Yes,
then the worst case scenario here is 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you know, and again, I'm like you, Mike, I was under the assumption that if you worked, it was just you was getting your pay, but if you didn't have to work, you wasn't in here. But again, I know that Wagner.
I would add this too. I don't know how the working in the courthouse is more hazardous than
There you go.
working in.
there's a hazard right there, yeah.
Been electrocuted. More hazardous than working in the sheriff's office, or more hazardous than working in the health department.
Oh.
I mean, if anybody wants to choose to change jobs and go work at the sheriff's office or the health department, I think we'll let them.
Yeah.
If I can
But
explain.
the thing about it is, nobody's in here. I mean, we've walked it out.
Exactly. No, the public's not in here, it's just the employees.
But when this got
It's a thought.
started was, everybody on TV, the governor, the
Yeah, I
governor of Kentucky, the president, everybody said 2 weeks. And so, in a policy of trying to be
Yeah,
fair.
you're
for
still
2
with us,
weeks-
John, hang on just 1 second.
In a policy of trying to be fair for 2 weeks, this is what was suggested by our HR firm.
Yeah.
Is you got people home, you got people in there working, let's treat them all the same. When these people come back, you let these people take off. They're all being treated the same.
Yeah.
It-
And
Now,
definite
what's compounded
parameters.
is, it may be 2 months,
Yeah.
and we can't operate that way.
All right, John, you, go ahead, it's your turn here.
Okay, I was just gonna say, it sounds like one of the biggest problems we got is we let, somebody besides us decide what's essential services. And just from my conversation with Tammy, we need to straighten that out. We decide who's essential services and not everybody else. Now, as far as having everybody come back to work, I don't think I would be quite ready for that. You know, like somebody said a minute ago, it's only going to take one person to get somebody else infected. And I know in a couple of the officers, there's some people that are over the age and health issues, and they're more perceptible to it. So, me personally, I would have a problem with telling those people they have to come back up here. But the biggest problem with all this is trying to figure out how to pay everybody. And I doubt that we're going to make everybody happy no matter what we do. But I'm for taking whatever recommendations Tammy's looking at right now to get us through this. But just for now, I think we got to decide who's essential and who's not. Instead of letting officers over the department head decide.
And I agree with
And I don't
you.
know if we can do that in one meeting, but I mean, that's leaving Tammy in a bad position to decide who gets paid what.
No, because we passed the ordinance last time. This is an amendment to that ordinance, but we passed the ordinance last time that you get regular pay. So
But I
that's,
don't think it said whether you work or not, did it?
No.
No, it didn't, the
yeah, because that was
differentiate.
the whole gist of the
Yeah.
ordinance was to say that if you came to work, you got paid, and if you stayed home, you
You
got
got
paid.
paid, that's what
I mean, so there wasn't any additional stuff to that. I think my deal here, and I didn't know that, I guess I live in a different world, but maybe if and I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but I mean, if we're giving somebody 4 days off a week and ask them to come in one day if they want that time plus their regular time, I find that difficult.
One of the things in the ordinance that was passed last time said, any granted emergency stay-home pay may not exceed 2 weeks or 10 business days without approval of the majority. So this is limited in itself. Any granted emergency stay can't be more than for 10 days, or would be 14 days like for EMS. But again, we're looking at 2-week increments. That's kind of what I'm looking at, is 2-week increments.
Well, I guess you can look at that on the flip side of that. Another employee that you deem non-essential could say, well, why didn't I get to go in? why didn't I get to go into work, and I could have sat there and done something with my work, and then
But it's
I
your
could have got
department
comp
head that
time.
tells them no.
I understand it, but somebody's deeming that. Somebody's gonna deem that person essential or non-essential.
It's
But
the
I mean, you can
commission.
flip it the other way and say, well, I wanna go to work, but I can't go to work, but you're letting somebody else go to work.
But they're still getting paid.
But they're getting paid extra too. The person that shows up in here
They're
is
getting
getting
a
paid.
benefit.
They're getting a comp
They're
time
getting a
benefit.
They're
benefit.
getting a benefit.
But they worked for that benefit.
I know, but
Otherwise
the
you
other
don't
person
get it.
doesn't get
It's
the
comp time.
opportunity. The other person doesn't get that opportunity, because we've
But
said
because
they
they're
can't.
not deemed essential.
I-
That is the commissioner's call.
It's actually not, I mean, whether or not your payroll clerk comes in, they haven't specifically talked about the payroll clerk. You've talked about the payroll clerk. And Larry has been in here,
Because
and Mandy has been in here. And that's probably the same type thing in every other office. I assume department heads have been here. I know Christy Baylor, or whatever her name is now, she's been in here some. So other people have been in here from time to time.
Yes.
Nobody is specifically, the commissioners have not designated any of those people.
Yes, and that was what Wagner, Earl, and Shealy told me. They said, who is your commissioner deemed essential personnel? And I said, well, that's it. They haven't deemed particular people. They left it up to the department heads at this point to say who is essential and who's not. So, based upon that, I think this is also, I'll just back up on this one and say, this is a big learning curve for all of us, I
Yeah,
think.
Sure, I'm not saying.
I mean, this is 14 days out of 365 that we're talking about at this particular point, that may turn into other segments of 14 days out of this 365 we've got this year. That's one budget year. I just want something to cover me, that's approved by both boards, to pay people like I should, and not create anything that is not fair or consistent between any person or any department in this county. I want everybody to feel like that they have been treated correctly. Who gets treated correctly, per se, or who gets treated to whatever you guys want to deem as essential, then you guys can determine whether they get nothing or they get comp time or whatever. But you guys have to say, these people stay home in pandemics and do not come in department head. You tell me, you reach out to them. I can say, I need my payroll clerk 3 days to 4 days out of every other week to do payroll. Because it takes her 3 days to get payroll in, and it takes her a 4th day to come in and pay taxes, at least half a day. Mandy needs to pay the bills for the county. She comes in and works 2 days, gets everything ready, and she leaves. They need to tell you who they are and how much time they need to spend in here on average, if we're going to be repeating a pandemic over and over and over again this year. I need that list to know who to pay or who to give comp time to or who to not give anything extra to. That is your board's decision. I'm just trying to pass on what HR has suggested to you guys. Make it applicable to our county departments, and then you guys make the decision. I don't really, I've got employees in this situation, and it's of no consequence at all to elected officials because their pay is exactly the same no matter how many duties they perform in a pandemic. So we're talking about who do you approve from each department that is considered essential, and that's my list I go by.
So let me ask you on the ordinance that we passed before, if we, basically, if we kept that in play at this point, everybody's getting paid, correct?
Mhm.
I think would we need to do anything different than what we've done before? I mean, at that point, you know, I don't know that we will or we will not have to do something, but we have a policy in place. This one here, we can, if you so choose, I guess we can adopt this one to run through April the 7th. That's 2 weeks. And then at that point, see where we're at and see what we're going to do then. What do you think? And at that point, maybe gives us enough time to really look at who is essential. And at that point, the department, and I still think the department heads myself is going to know who's gonna be essential more than any one of us commissioners. I think they're gonna have to, but they're gonna have to put something down, saying this is why we feel that they are essential. And they will be working from home.
Well, that one form that I had, I think I gave you, it actually lists each department head would, and that's what Clark County and Floyd County has. That each department would fill that out and say who's essential and why they're essential. And then, I don't even know if there was a space on there, they could put how many hours they would have to, they could work.
And I guess my question is, I mean, we're not the only ones in this game. This is all uncharted water, there's no doubt. And we're not the only one in this game. I'd be interested to see what other people's doing. I mean, you know, even the state. Let's find out.
Me too, Scott, I agree with you on that, Bob. I would think the state would give us some guidelines. They haven't done that yet that I know of.
You know, I mean, I'll just give you an example. You know, my son-in-law works from home during this right here, and I don't think he's accruing any kind of time. I don't think he is. And so at that point, I think, you know, and he works for the state. So I think that's one of the things that we need to find out here is how this is going to, how we are expected to pay people. And I think that's, so, but by doing this, I think it, you know, I do think that at this point we can choose to do this. It's good for the, basically one pay period, 2 weeks, and then we can revise it or have time to look at changing it any way we want to change it, I think, at that point.
Yeah, as it stands, it cannot work.
Oh,
Long term, it cannot.
Long term, I agree with you.
I totally agree with
yeah, I don't
that too.
think it
This
can
is not
either.
a long-term
I mean,
thing.
it's just a matter of, you know, and at that point, it comes down to, it does come down to, you know, what do you, I think that is what I hate to do that, is do you open the thing back up and just allow everybody, you know, and I certainly don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But I think it's a matter of how we're going to pay people, and it just comes down to dollars and cents.
If you think you're not gonna adopt this for long term, which I don't think we should, because I don't think we can afford it,
No, we can't.
I would
We can't.
suggest we don't adopt it at all.
That's what I.
Go with what, but that's
I'd
what I
rather-
suggest. I'm not a commissioner, and I'm probably speaking out of turn, but there's no use adopting this for 2 weeks and doing away with it 2 weeks later, so everybody's gonna say, well, you did it for 2 weeks, you know, just leave it
I'm like you,
that.
Bob, I do have conversations with other commissioners. I will ask what kind of pay structure they have. I mean, of course, like 2 of them are still working. Floyd and Clark will still have people in their courthouse. Washington County and the other Harrison and Crawford County, they don't have people in their courthouse. So
They're shut down completely.
they're completely shut down.
Will they just record?
They're doing it by video, or they're canceling it. So emergencies, they're doing it by video, and actually they, even with that, they have a room set up to where the judge and the person not in the same room ever.
Yeah, they're in different areas.
It's all videotaped, but,
Well,
I'd make a motion that we just don't act on this right now. I mean, I don't want to turn it down. I think we need to do some more research. And even if it's reaching out to the state and see what the state says, hey, what are you doing? Or actually, we can reach out to the Indiana Board of Commissioners and say, what are other counties doing in this situation? So,
well, with that being said, instead of, I think we could just agree, to table it.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what
That's good
And
with
because everybody is being paid
Yeah.
right now,
Nobody's
correct?
not getting.
Nobody's
It's
not
just an
getting a paycheck.
It's basically an issue now of do they get comp time when,
And
at some point in time, due to pandemic, work performed,
I think we
and
can,
or a hazardous stipend for their
and
jobs.
I think we can look at, basically having that conversation down the road, a couple of 3 weeks down the road, even if we have to. But I think that gives us time to find out. Again, I think we've got to know what other counties is doing and what the state's doing, and even the federal government level, what they do. I'm sure that these people are not being comped working from home. I don't know that, but again, if it's something that we have to do, then I think we got to look at who's essential and know exactly how many people we're going to be dealing with and how many hours we're going to be dealing with.
Do you know so far how many people, or how many hours people have worked that have came in?
Because we haven't got payroll, it's part of this pay period that's for the 10th.
Okay.
Yes,
So.
But you will know.
I will know.
So they will.
They're documenting. I've told them to
Okay.
track their time that they actually work.
Work.
Yes.
Okay.
I've gotten that
Okay.
far with them. And also, this does give me the authority to pay people who aren't showing up to work and also who have been quarantined due to suspicion of COVID-19 until they're cleared or whatever. So this covers me for anybody that's not
Talking about
at
the
work that's
ordinance.
earning wages.
Yeah.
So that's fine for now. This other stuff is basically either gonna be on paper later for use, or additional monies that we may have to, council may have to appropriate if we go to a hazard duty pay. You know, we may, if that's what happens. So we're good for now. That tabling thing is a good thing, I think, because you guys will know whether you're on point or whether you are not doing things that other counties are doing. So, look, I can dig into that, you guys can call whoever you want to, and Mike made a motion then, I think, to table the amendment, not this, this still stands, but table the amendment
Yes.
until next meeting.
John, did
Let
you
me
hear?
get this straight, we're just gonna, table it for now, people are still gonna get paid,
Yes.
and, as long as, once they get paid, we never take it back, so if anything, we may pay somebody more or adjust it in the future, is that correct?
If need be, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll look at what other people's doing and how they are paying that, and I think we need to fall in line with what other people's doing. And I think that's kind of what Mike's saying.
Everybody's in the same boat, you're right, everybody's I think we're gonna have to have some guidance from Indianapolis and the federal government,
I do too, and
yeah.
again, if it is something that, again, is going to be any chance through FEMA or anybody like that, that would be any kind of payback, then at that point, it may become a different argument. But at this point, I think the motion's been made by Mike, just to table this. Again, everybody's still getting paid, we'll work from that. How's that?
That's good to me. Are we just table on the next meeting, or do we have a date we're gonna try to get back on this?
I'll say the next meeting.
I'd say, we can do it the next meeting, or we can just table it till we get further instructions, I'd say. How's that?
Okay, well, that's fine.
And
Okay, well, I'll second it.
All right, the motion's been made. John has seconded it, and I will make that unanimous to table the ordinance amending the 2020 emergency pandemic salary ordinance. And again, everybody's still getting paid. And
That gives the council time to have a meeting.
and that will give us something to
When do you meet, Mike?
be able to look at.
Third Tuesday, so we'll meet
13.
second Tuesday, I'm sorry, we
Well,
changed the second Tuesday, we're in between you guys now, that's what we did.
Okay.
So we'll have a meeting and
Because you did it on
I have a
Monday. We're
question
gonna meet
also.
Monday.
Just
Monday the
as
13th.
an employee, maybe for other employees also,
Mhm.
where they have been told they're getting comp hours, is that all gone away now, or are we stopping what employees have
I
accumulated?
just told somebody they were getting comp time.
That was the policy we were taking to it. It wasn't approved though. It has to go through both
Yeah.
boards. Yes. Yeah,
then.
but, yeah, because we were talking, when I talked to you the other day,
Mm.
I said, it's being proposed, but
So
it's
it
not.
really hasn't even been through.
No, and that's what I tell them with people when I talk to them, because they'll ask, I've had a blue million calls, okay? Everything from, am I gonna have to sign up for unemployment, or what's gonna happen here? And I said, well, there's a proposal on the table that it could be comp time if you work, but I said it's gotta go through both boards, and it has to, be passed by both boards. So I tell them I don't know how it's gonna pan out at this point, but that's what was being proposed.
Okay.
Okay. All right, next up is the deposit frequency policy during public health emergencies here. I think that was,
Yeah, State Board of Accounts sent a letter out, saying that they would not take exception because State Board of Accounts requires that any funds, public monies, be deposited on a daily basis. And whenever you go to reduced operations, you have to amend your policy to make it the days that you're doing it, and they're saying Tuesdays and Thursdays would suffice with them. So I've written a policy to say that we have public funds and that it's still mandated by Indiana code that they be deposited on a daily basis. But in this emergency that you would approve that Tuesdays and Thursdays would be the days that the auditor and treasurer would take the public monies for deposit instead of Mondays or Friday. Or days that were open, I should say. And that everybody is still supposed to secure the funds and also exercise proper internal controls during this time period as well.
Okay,
Because if I'm only depositing public funds on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or only the days that I'm in here, and State Board of Accounts comes in and writes me up because I've not deposited on Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday that week. Why did you just do it Tuesdays and Thursdays for 3 weeks? Then I'm written up.
okay.
So we're passing a policy to allow her to change the way she makes deposits, is that correct?
Yes, instead of depositing 5 days a week, they can basically limit it to twice weekly, and that would be Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And this is something authorized by the state, is that correct?
There is, State Board of Accounts sent a communication out, and I think I passed that on to the council and the commissioners, that they've got a directive 2020-1 that allows for the approval of governing body must state that the deposits will be made on Tuesday and Thursday and require public funds to be secured on those days when a deposit is not made. And they won't take exception if the governing body gives me a policy to operate differently by during a pandemic or another emergency.
And I'm assuming you want to do that, so.
I do, because I don't want to,
If
yeah.
it'll help and we're meeting the guidelines, I'll be all for making a motion for that. Unless there's something I'm not understanding, but that sounds reasonable to me.
All right, and I think, I agree. John has made the motion to adopt the health emergency deposit public funds frequency policy to allow her to allow them to deposit public funds twice, which would be on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and securing the funds on days of non-deposit along with proper internal controls to safeguard the assets of the county. So John's made a motion on that. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And I'll make that unanimous.
Thank you.
And do you have one of these, or you listen
If
here?
you don't mind, just sign that.
This one?
And it'll work.
Right. Okay. All right, next up is the syringe exchange program renewal request. And our letter here is they're requesting that you renew our syringe service program, commonly known as the needle exchange program, for an additional 2 years. With the recent outbreaks of COVID-19 in our state, we will not be present during this request. To take the place of an in-person testimony, we have attached letters of support of community stakeholders to show that this program is needed and supported. The lifetime exchange rate of the program is 92%, and there are an average of 31 visits a week so far this year. We continue to work with dispatch and law enforcement to pick up syringes in public areas during business hours. We still provide supplies to diabetics or those who have a medical need. We conducted over 1,000 HIV tests in 2019 with only 7 positives. And not all were identified as injection drug use. They are currently over 150 estimated HIV positive individuals living within Scott County. And it says, please see the attached letter that is required by Indiana code. And this is from Kevin Rogers and Michelle Madden. And again,
There's several documents in
there
your
is
packet.
several documents here and And I will tell you that the State Health Commissioner, which is Christina Box, MD, has sent a letter in support of this. Judge Mount has sent a letter. Dr. John Crosdale has sent a letter in support. Beth Keeney, which is the Senior Vice President of Community Health Initiatives. Brandon George is the Executive Director of the Indiana Addictions Issues Coalition. And we have, of course, Dr. Rogers and Michelle Matter has also sent letters supporting and saying that this is a needed essential. So we'll open her up for any discussion here and or any, whatever you want to.
Actually, I'm kind of disturbed here a little bit, and I feel like I've been, you know, kind of crossways here, because the last meeting we had, it was discussed that there was going to be, the health board was going to come and try to get an extension, and they actually were asking for an extension to the end of the year. Us to sign a letter or approve a letter to extend this to the end of the year. And at that time I said I was against that. And then I come in here today and I see that everybody's requesting this to be till to expire in May 24th of 2022. And not one, because we're in a pandemic and people can't come in here and voice their opinion, we're now going to not extend this, and I was against it to the end of the year because, you know, I guess I'm going to say that I understand the State Board of Health is involved in this pandemic, and the local health board is involved in this pandemic, but we're going to push something out to the end of the year. I mean, hopefully we're out of this pandemic in the short future, and we're going to have to continue to do business as a county. But for me, I feel like I've been blindsided walking in here to see that somebody's requesting this extends to the end of the May of 22, which the state government just passed a law that moved it a year back. So, because the law is going to expire May 24 or 21, and now they moved it back another year to May 24th of 22. So if we do what we're going to do today, we're going to just be here to the end of the law itself. And I've been an advocate against this from day one. Everybody maybe doesn't know that there's 92 counties in Indiana, and only 7 or 9 have a needle exchange program. And Lawrence County had one and did away with it, and they're not falling apart over there. But I'm actually just flabbergasted that I was told in the last meeting, hey, I don't want to blindside somebody, but I'd like to ask for a letter to extend it to the end of the year, and now I see that it's not to the end of the year. They want to extend it to the end of the deadline, so I'm pretty upset right now because I understand people can't come in here right now and voice their opinion, and all these good people that write these notes and tell them that, oh, it's the best thing since sliced bread. I'm against it. I mean, one of these days, the attorney's going to get smart enough that they're going to come and sue every commissioner that hands needles out to people because we're actually helping them kill themselves. So, I'm really ticked off right now. And
okay, let me try to clarify a couple things. One is so that you realize what you are signing or what you're not signing. This thing is they're asking for the extension to last up to 2 years. At any time, this board or any other board of commissioners can cancel this. It does not have to. It does not have to be in 2024 or 2022. It can be canceled at any time. So I think that was maybe the procedure that was looked at is that, you know, again, and that's what we, I think, signed the last time, was the fact that it was, can be canceled at any time. Now, and I know, and you know, everybody, Mikey, you know, I've struggled with this just like I've said before, and it is a big struggle. Again, 7 counties, maybe all 92, maybe all that have this. Again, what's their ratio? What's theirs? I know what ours was.
We don't know what it is now though, because you don't get a good number. You could ask the health department to walk in here and tell you how many people is in this program. They cannot tell you, and anybody that once got in it, their name never comes out of it. Anybody that ever tested for HIV in this county will never come off that record. It's almost like a voting record. You got to die and have a death certificate to come in and get your name taken off it. They do not take anybody off that list, ever. They're on it forever.
You know, and again, I'm going to say this, and I guess, and please hear me out on this. We were in a pandemic with HIV, the same as with a pandemic that we are right now with coronavirus. And at that time, just the same as it is today, who was the people that navigated us through that? It was our local health department, our state board of health, and the CDC. The same people that's navigating us now. And I guess my biggest problem with this is, and again, I struggle with it, but to, in my opinion, attack the integrity of their decisions, I have a hard time doing that, especially being in another pandemic at this time. How can you, you know, if you trust them at this point, how can you not trust them at the other point?
I don't trust them now.
Well, and that's everybody's decision, I guess, you know, who you trust or who you don't trust. But, you know, I'm looking at this as, you know, you've got people that I would put my life in their hands, the doctors that signed off on this. You know, we've got the Dr. Jerome Adams, which is now the U.S. Surgeon General, that's saying, you know, this is what you need to do. And I don't have an MD beside my name. I have a hard time and again, I struggle with it like you do, Mike, there's no doubt. But when push comes to shove, we're doing the same thing. If you're going to take advice from people, it's just like the courthouse. If you're going to take advice and say, you know what, we need to limit the number of people coming in here, then I think we've got to do the same with this. As bad as it, you know, and I know it's unpopular. I know that. But again, did it work? Yes, it did. It worked, and it leveled, it done the same thing that they're wanting to do with people staying home right now. The only thing is we're not handing out needles to these people, but it flattened that spike that we had here in this county, and I think, you know, until somebody can show me numbers that's not for, that does not match what they're showing me, I've got to go with the numbers we got.
And I've talked to some of them about the health department too, and I agree, it's flattened this thing. The amount of increase in this HIV thing is extremely slowed down. I'm like you, I have, in my opinion, I have to trust professionals. You know, whether we vote on today or vote on next month or 9 months, whatever we want to do. If somebody wants to change my mind, I'm always open, but I haven't found any reason to change on this. And you know, like you said, Bob, you struggle with it. I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, I wasn't for it either. But, you know, I've researched the best I can do, and I think it's leveled the growth out quite a bit. And as far as other counties, I know Lawrence, I looked up there the other day, and they've got 2 or 3 patients over there. We've got probably 200. And I've talked to up in Wayne County up there, they're very concerned that it was going to stop. It's not popular. There's nobody going to like what we do here. My issue never was whether the program was being successful or not. It was always the needles on the ground. Needles on the ground is disturbing. I know we had needles on the ground of them back. If we do away with this program, that's 900 needles is gonna go somewhere. These people, the opiate problem, aren't gonna quit. They're gonna find a needle somewhere. And the difference is they won't be bringing them back. Who knows where they'll go. I think it'll increase. I know we're kind of flying on this, and like you said, uncharted on the new thing, but, I trust Dr. Rogers. I trust Dr. Croswell. I trust the state Board of Health. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'll take the chance, and I'm going to be for the program. If you want to vote on it today, or if they want to vote on it next month, I don't care. But that's my feelings. I think it's working. The needles are the problem, not the program.
Well, I'll go back to something I've said all along. 13,000 needles in 1 month are handed out to people. 13,000 needles. I mean, how many people, in less than 200 people out there picking up 13,000 needles. I just don't get it. And the other part, I guess I would ask both of you, when's it ever stop? When's it ever stop?
I don't think it was ever intended to stop.
No, it's never going to stop.
Slow the growth.
No, I'm talking about the needle exchange. When's it ever going to stop?
It stopped the growth of it. It was out of control.
You don't know.
In the past. And it has slowed the growth down tremendously.
How many?
I don't think it's going to stop it. There's still going to be people do it.
How many people how many people have been, I guess, tested positive for HIV or hepatitis C in the last year?
That's 7, is what the letter said.
Yeah, I think it was 5 or 6 or something. I knew the number was way
Well, I didn't have
down.
an opportunity to read it.
The number that I read to you a minute ago was that they still provide supplies to diabetics and those who are in medical need, but they have conducted over 1,000 HIV tests in 2019 with only 7 positive cases. Now, again, that's according to Dr. Kevin Rogers and Michelle Madden here. This is who that letter is from. Again, Mike, I agree with you. I think it stops, when, in my opinion,
It's never going to stop.
well, again, you may or may not be right, but I think it stops when the people that's in the profession looks at us and says, you know what, our numbers have dropped, and I think we can start throttling back, so to speak. That's what I think. I don't know any other way to rationalize a decision. But here's one thing that I don't think that I'm prepared to do, and I don't think at this point, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. And again, uncharted waters is hard to navigate, and whether nobody's going to be right all the time. But here's the one thing that I don't know that I'm prepared to do. We're facing a pandemic like no other that we've ever experienced right now. If you take away the needle exchange program and that pandemic rears its ugly head, now we've got 2 pandemics, and I'm telling you from experience of being involved in 2 pandemics, one's enough at a time that I want to fight at any time. And I don't know that, again, you may be right. You may be right that that it does not grow, it don't go anywhere. But I do see, again, what John's saying is I don't know of anybody, and I think that was the fear from the public, but I don't know of anybody that has contracted HIV from stepping on a needle or picking up a needle that's documented in this county. So again, I think that fear factor, but I think John is right when John says if you take the needles away, there's nobody picking them up. Now, where do you think they're going to go to? I think you're going to have an abundance of them on the ground, a good possibility. A lot more than we have now. Pardon me?
You're not going to have them on the ground because they're going to use them.
Well, and then so at that point, it goes back to what they said to start with, was at that point, again, and as you just alluded to, they're going to be using them, and they're going to be using them over and over and sharing them and going, and that's when your numbers start to rise again.
I understand that, but the world has all sorts of problems, and I don't know that it's our problem to continue to, in my opinion, and this is my opinion only, that I'm enabling someone to continue to do something that's destructive to them, and again, destructive, and something that's actually on the legal books that's illegal. So you can vote today, you can vote whenever you want, but my vote's always going to be no. I'm done with this. I've researched it, I've seen the numbers, I know what it is. You know, health department sat right here and said, I asked them when they thought it was going to end, and one of them said, it'll never end as long as there's a person using a needle. So this program will never end in this county. And I'm really sick to dang death of going to a commissioner's meeting and having somebody from another commissioner walk up to me when he sees my name tag. He says Scott County, Indiana, and goes, how's that needle exchange working for you? I'm just a little bit tired of Scott County being known for their needle exchange program.
How do you define it works?
Huh?
How do you define it works?
How do I define it works? What do you mean?
I mean, when you're asked that question, I mean, it's a
I'm telling them I'm against it.
You tell them it's against it, but then you tell them that it don't work.
No, I didn't say that.
So if
I'll go back here, because you can blow the numbers any way you want, and I'm not going to argue with this. You can blow the numbers any way you want. The State Board of Health can come in here and tell you, fool you full of numbers. You can say that it was an epidemic. You think per capita in Scott County was any different than Floyd County, Clark County, or any place else? No, we got it promoted and blowed out there. So I'm just over it. Over it.
Well, I understand.
And you can vote, and I'm done talking, so you can vote.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. But just because you're done talking don't mean that I'm done
talk till you're blue in the face.
I'm not going to try to talk you into it. But what I'm saying, Mike, is this. Is you're sitting there, and I kind of take a little bit of offense to the fact that you, and I do, thank you. But I take a little bit of offense to that you attack the integrity of the medical profession and the people right here. So go on record as saying that.
You just did.
I sure did. And so at that point you can go on record doing that.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I sure did.
And so I guess, wait a minute, John, I'm not done yet. Just a minute. So I guess
just because you have an MD
behind
your name don't mean you're an expert either.
Well, it don't?
It sure don't.
Okay.
I know a lot of doctors.
So I guess my question is, Mike, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I'm just trying to no, I'm not. I'm trying to get a question answered. I guess my first thought is that again, you can put numbers with anything. So with the pandemic we're in right now, you don't seem to think that we're in the shape that we probably are right now.
Scott County, I think, is in good shape.
So Scott County's in good shape, but across the United States.
But it's per capita.
So there you go.
When you got people living on top of each other in New York, you're going to have more people sick.
I am not going to attack the integrity of the health department, the State Board of Health, and the CDC, and the U.S. Surgeon General on this. I'm not going to do that. And whether I'm wrong, I'll take the heat, but I think I'm right. And I know you think you're right, and that's fine. And again, disagreements, I'm not mad at you, I'm not upset. I'm just saying that I think in this case, I think that you're probably wrong. Now, and you think you're right, and I understand that, and that's okay. That's okay. We can do that. But again, if you feel more comfortable, like you say, I don't know what more we can do to convince you, or anybody wants to convince you.
You're not going to convince me because I live this. I have Narcan in my car out right now.
Sure.
Nobody in this room's got a Narcan in their car, but I carry it every place I go. I've witnessed it. So for somebody to tell me that sits in a white, clean room in Indianapolis and tells me how they know what's doing this and doing that, I tell them they're wrong. And they don't come out and get in the car with me and drive out.
But if you come up on somebody that's overdosed, you do use the Narcan.
I sure do. I've
I've
done it several times.
And I think that's where I'm at with this is this. And I look at this situation, and the HIV is a little different bird. There's no doubt about it. But there is a number of people, innocent people, that has been caught in this crossfire of opioids and become addicted, that have done things that they normally never would have done.
I agree with that.
And so at that point, if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of love and compassion for them people. I don't have to like what they do, but I've got to say that if this is saving their life, it ain't no different than the Narcan that you're putting up their nose. That's what you're doing. You're trying to save a life.
Can I ask you this, and if
Sure.
the next time you're talking to all the experts and the doctors and everything, why won't the state ever release how many opioids that doctors have prescribed? Why don't if they want to put their money where their mouth is, why don't they come in and go, this doctor, Dr. So-and-so prescribed 10,000 opioids to so many patients. But they won't tell you that because that's...
I think we got that a couple years ago.
No, you didn't. Nobody will ever tell me how many doctors in Scott County has prescribed opioids and how many opioids each doctor prescribed. I'd love to know that number.
Well, I got something on here a year and a half ago, and it basically told each pharmacy, but yeah.
No, I'm not talking about pharmacies. I'm talking about doctors. If the doctors are out here telling us they're the saviors and stuff, but they don't want to put their own name out here and go, I prescribed X amount of opioids, but they don't want to do that.
I don't have a problem knowing how many they gave out.
I know, but they won't. The state board of accounts sure won't, or the state board of health sure won't tell you how many of that happened.
Well, I think you know, to answer that, Mike, to this point, you know, I can only assume, and sometimes you know what that does. But here's what I think. I think that the drug companies sold these doctors on the ideal that this was a drug that could not be become addictive. I think at that point they was asked to use this drug, and they did. And that is one reason why we are trying to hold the pharmaceutical companies' feet to the fire, and we filed a lawsuit in respect to what it's cost discounting. And you know, that's what we did. That's the only recourse we had, because I do think the pharmaceutical companies sold even the doctors a bill of goods here by saying, you know, this is you know, it wouldn't be no different than today, in my opinion. You know, everybody's looking for that magic pill that they can take in the coronavirus. You know, if we can take this and but what if that magic pill 2 years down the road has all kinds of effects as far as being addictive and causing you the same problems? You know, that's what I'm looking at. And I just, like I say, I just feel like that is whether we extend it to the end of the year, whether we extend it for 2 years, it's still the same. You can take this away at any given time. That's the way it was written up, is that this can be taken away at any given time. And I think I'm correct on that, and Counselor, I'll rely on you. It don't have to be in 2021. It can be October 2020. It can be September. It can be any time you want to get rid of it, that you feel the need. If the majority of the board feels that there's a need to get rid of it, they can get rid of it. It's not a guaranteed you're going to have it for 2 years. So I think that gives us the loop out too. And again, if somebody can show me something different, but I've not been able to find anybody that can show me anything different that says that it's still not working. And that's what I'm looking at. So, and I'll leave it up to, I'm certainly fine with voting on this, and because of what's in place, it can go around at any time. And again, if your answer is always going to be no, then I can see no reason to extend this any farther other than just do it. And but if you want time to research and talk to these people and can come back and they change their mind on any of this, I'll certainly entertain putting it off to the next meeting.
You guys vote how you want. I'm always going to vote no.
All right.
I'll make a motion to extend the program for 2 years.
The motion has been made to extend the program as asked through 2022, I believe it was. Isn't that correct? Let me be sure here.
The only thing,
The program, yes, go ahead, Mike.
the only thing that still upsets me is that, I walk in here and find out that they're not gonna extend it to what they said, that they came in and wanted the whole damn shooting match, so I guess that's where where they said, oh, we're not gonna blindside you, but they just blindsided me. So that's where I'm not real happy about it, so. But the vote was always gonna be the same way, no matter what, so I'm always gonna vote no, and you guys are always gonna vote yes, so.
I will, and it is to May 24th of
It's May 24, 20.
Yeah, May 24th of 22.
And the
And
only,
again, and I'm going to reiterate this, and Bob, I want this somehow, I guess, attested to here, and so that and this don't specifically read that, but I know that I'm correct on this, that this can be discontinued at any time,
That's
correct?
my understanding, true, yes.
Okay, and that would be something that I think that we want to make sure of here, that at any given time, it can be going away. So it's just because it's we're saying they don't have to come back every year, that they lengthened it out to 2 years, but you can do away with it at any time, correct?
the
Okay.
reason the May 24th of 2022 is that the state has extended that
Yes.
sunset law 1 year. So, in May 24, 22, the law runs out. So the only way Scott County is ever going to get rid of the needle exchange is when that law expires, in my opinion, so.
And you may be right on that. You may be correct, but I guess again I am going to say this. I go back to the fact that I don't think any of this is political in any way whatsoever. I think it's I think Governor Holcomb would not have done this if he did not feel like that the science was behind it and the numbers was behind it to say, I think he would have stopped it. I think, the Vice President was Governor Mike Pence when it got signed in, and I think them people are smart people, and I think that they would not agree to that if it was not something that the science and the numbers wasn't behind. So I think that's where I'm at. Again, I don't think I'm going to challenge their integrities by saying that I'm not going to do this. So, John, you've made the motion. I will second the motion, and again, to make sure that it can go away at any time, but as of now, that it will pass 2-1, and Mike votes no on it.
Cases.
That's the. So, anyway, that's where we're at. So, anyway, it does pass 2-1, and we'll move on. Again, Mike, I respect your opinion.
Did you sign that?
I
I
will.
have the original here.
I will. I respect your opinion, but we'll agree to disagree on this one for
That's
now.
fine.
I'll get you.
Okay. All right. And now we need the final approval for the Verizon Tower location. And that is, again, has that moved any? I can't see that it
I
has.
think it's in the same place we talked about before.
Yeah. And
It's
that-
beyond the ditch and alongside the road over there.
And it's 150 feet off the building, apartments across the road, or the
Yeah.
parking lot. So yeah, it's the same, John. It's the same as it was before. It's just got a little more drawing laid out to it here, and it's the same place that we'd agreed to before.
Yeah, I'm good on it. I know they might work on that. So he can either make a motion or I will. I don't care which.
All right, motion.
I'll second it.
John makes a motion.
Motion made, yeah.
Mike seconds it. I'll make it unanimous. Contract for budget consultation services with AIC. Again, this agreement is entered into, this is every year, isn't it, pretty well?
No, this is a new agreement
This
in
is?
council. It has been before council already, and Mike, if you want to speak to this, you
No,
can.
you good.
It's budgetary consultation services, and AIC offers a program, and they're in several different counties. And they'll come in and analyze your CUME funds and do things for you to make sure that maybe you're getting the most out of your rates and you're doing the most effective thing. And it's gonna be a budgeting tool for council and they have it in their budget to pay for that through their professional services. So they're asking your permission to
We
enter.
passed it unanimously.
Yes.
Okay, it's passed the council unanimously, so I'll entertain a motion to enter into this agreement with the Association of Indiana Counties.
And
How
it's
much is it?
$5,000.
Okay. I'll make a motion.
Mike has made the motion. John?
I'll second.
It's unanimous. It's passed. Next up is the monthly claims consideration for March 2020. Is this the one on me here? Or is it- No, yours
No,
is
you've got the black box.
The black one. Has everybody had a chance to look these over?
Yeah, I'll look at them. I'm okay with it.
All right, Mike, have you had a
Yeah, I'm
chance?
good with it.
All right. John, you make the motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second,
Second.
unanimous. And we have a invoice here, looks like two of them. From Wingham Paving, they have paved Salem Road and they have paved Peacock Road, and it looks about like 394,000 for both of them, I think. One was 143,460 and the other one 151,24. And that is from the community crossing grant monies, and them roads are done. So he has done them, and Jill has turned these in for payment. So
For urgents on Friday.
for urgents on Friday.
Yes.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to pay?
I'll make a motion, Pam.
Mike has made the motion. Second.
I'll second it.
I'll make that unanimous. Do we need anything?
No, we're good. I can use your stuff.
Okay, all right. Next up is the consideration of the minutes from March 24th,
I'll make a motion.
March 4th. Mike has made the motion to accept them. Second,
I'll second it.
unanimous. Next is the payroll ratification for March 27th. Do I hear a motion to ratify?
I'll make a motion.
Mike has made the motion. John?
I'll second it.
Unanimous. You still there, John? I hit the phone. You still with us?
I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Next up on here is we have a letter of resignation. And this is to the Scott County Board of Commissioners. I'm writing to inform you that I've accepted another position in my field of expertise. My final day of work for Scott County will be Saturday, April the 18th, 2020. I appreciate all the support and guidance that has been offered to me over the past 4.5 years of working for this great community. This is the best decision for my family and me as we pursue the next chapter in our life. We will be remaining in the community, and I will always make myself available to any elected official or first responder that needs assistance. And that was respectfully Greg Ramoni. Greg has accepted another position, and so at that point, if that last day is April 18th, I think we probably need to post for that position, don't you?
Yeah, I think he's got a deputy at 911, so that'll probably continue to run smoothly, but the EMA, I don't think he had a deputy over there.
Right, that's my understanding too.
That's exactly right, he didn't. And so at this point, let's go ahead and post that. That's what gives us basically 2 weeks. And
Yeah,
we'll,
we may have to expedite that.
yeah, we'll go ahead and.
And I'm assuming that'll be posted in the papers and social media.
Yes.
This one,
Yeah,
yes.
this one will have to be because,
Put it on the
nobody-
website.
and on the website, we'll post it on the website and in the papers.
Can we get this done by April 18th?
Don't know. We got to post it for 10 days, correct?
5
5
days
days.
minimum, but by the
But
time
by
it
the
gets.
time it gets out, it won't get out till the paper till next
I
week.
usually run it 2 weeks
Yeah.
I'd
because of,
say we're probably gonna be without.
I'd say we're gonna be without an EMA director for a short period of time
you
here.
might get hired
Is there
first
any-
meeting in May.
Is there anybody else that can fill in?
I know somebody possibly could.
We had somebody before Greg.
Eric Lauer's back in town.
I think,
He's done it.
He's done it before.
well, and again, I think, let's see what we can do on this about getting it out there and post it, see what we go. See what kind of names
I
we
know he
get.
moved back, so he's here in town, but I don't know. Finals back into that interim kind of thing too.
So,
He was the first one.
No, Bob Bridgewater was.
Okay.
Remember 100 years ago?
Yeah. It was.
Some people know Bob. You
Okay.
remember Bob?
okay, I remember. So we'll go ahead and post.
Okay.
All right, now, the next thing here, and this is not actually on the agenda, but I'm gonna bring this up, and we need to probably maybe look at doing something here. Again, in the uncharted waters that we're navigating, I did receive a call from Dr. Rogers, and I've received a call from Dr. Crosdale, and they are trying, again, to be ahead of anything that may or may not take place here in this county. And one of the things that they all met together, and one of the things that they feel like that we may have a problem with if the pandemic hits here like it's hitting other places, is the fact that we may need to have a third truck up and running in the ambulance position, and because they're going, in their words, most likely Scott Memorial will be transferring a lot of patients south to Clark County or north of Louisville, but in the event that they can't, if this thing grows and grows, then all of a sudden they will be right here. And Dr. Crosdale would, instead of being an emergency room physician, would become an ICU physician then at that point, I suppose. But they are asking for another truck to be up and running as far as an ambulance service. And to do that, I think Tyler feels like that he can put a crew together for another truck. And we may have to have the fourth truck, we don't know. But I'm certainly will support anything that I feel like that they need, that they're asking for. I know that, again, Mike will have to send that down to you guys. But on my behalf, again, I'm going to go with the professionals, and I'm going to try to support what they need and what they ask for. And so with that being said, I'll open that up to some discussion there. But I think because time is of essence, I think at this point, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I'd like to see us do something, and by either supporting that, sending it on down the line for the council, or rejecting it, however you want to do it.
Mike,
Tom?
go ahead.
When I talked to them, one of the biggest concern was getting more part-time people to man that extra vehicle. So I think they would like us to authorize Tyler to hire some more part-time people. And that may end up after us going to council. So I they need a vote from us, and I know 4 running vehicles down there. I don't know if he's talking about adding another one altogether, or just putting one more on the road with the part-time people.
I
I'm
think,
like you, I want to vote to do it, and then we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I got the same calls that Bob got from Kevin yesterday and John today, Dr. Crosdale, but I'm in full agreement that whatever they need, and I told him, I mean, the other night I drove an ambulance to UVO, so I mean, I know that fire departments, as I told Dr. Crosdale, fire departments are willing to drive the ambulance if they have an EMT or a paramedic that actually could be in the back. So there's been plenty of times that's, you know, firemen are out there driving ambulances to the hospital or wherever. So I'm full agreement. If we need, you know, I don't know that he's wanting that truck on the road right now, but he wants it to be ready in case something hits the fan.
I think they're concerned about the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we gotta get ahead of it, I agree.
I think he needs to get his people in place, and, you know, I think whatever we have to do, I think needs to happen, so.
I think we need a motion to allow them to hire some more part-time people, and use the, I think we ought to authorize the firemen too, make sure they're covered too, if they're gonna be driving.
We're covered, the fire,
You covered.
I know as far as Scottsburg, we're covered anytime we're on a run, so with our insurance, so it doesn't have anything to do with the county's insurance.
Well, I wanna make sure the county's covered too.
My understanding is that
Yeah.
from this morning that,
But I'm all for that, I think that's a good idea, and I love the firemen for doing that, but I also wanna make sure we're covered if something was
okay,
to happen.
I think anytime you commandeer a person to drive an ambulance, you're probably covered through the county.
well, I think there's some special dispensation also because of the COVID-19 problem
Okay.
from the state about
Well,
what
yeah,
you
they
just said.
actually just kind of
Yeah.
brought it. Wouldn't be any different bringing on a retired pharmacist or a doctor or somebody else. You're probably,
In the short term, is my understanding, in the short term at least, it doesn't require the county to give Tyler any money, does it? Because doesn't he have money to do this?
he's got money right now, but at the end of the year, he may run out because of it.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in an emergency situation, you know, we're not gonna do it without the ambulance,
yeah.
so.
And again,
The first time this has happened, we've done that before, where we've had to have volunteers from the sheriff's office drive the ambulance, I mean, so.
and I think,
Whatever we gotta do, I'm for it.
I mean, if we gotta make a motion,
yeah,
of course, technically, he's not gonna come to Mike until, he runs out of money.
Yeah. let us,
I mean, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
and I think at that point, I mean, I think we need to do this. I think, like I say, again, the healthcare professionals has asked for it, and I think that to help them combat it, I think we got to do it. I think that's what we need to do. So, yeah, I will entertain a motion to allow him to hire part-time people on a temporary basis, I think it should say.
Yeah.
To get through this, and I think at that point, I would certainly request and require, I guess, that they keep a good log of the hours these people work, and there may be compensation again through FEMA or somebody down the road where we can reduce some of that, where, you know, they won't have to go to the council at a later stage.
I agree.
But,
I'll make a motion.
And I think we need to authorize also that to have that fourth vehicle, or extra vehicle ready.
yes.
If I had any concerns at all, it would be whether these people will come and work part-time for what we're paying them. So if Tyler's having trouble hiring, I want him to get back with us quick so we can make amendments to this.
Their skill set's the same as
Yeah, and it will have to be, again, the same pay, but we will,
It's based off of their experience
yeah, so
and their,
with that being said, Mike has made the motion to allow Tyler to hire enough part-time help that we can at least have 4 trucks, is that what we're saying? Or 3 trucks?
I think it's 3, and I I think if he has to pull a fourth one, I think we might be able to work something out with the fire departments or something, or if he doesn't have
Yeah.
the manpower.
So let's
I
make,
think he's got a fifth one, it's just broke down pretty bad shape.
yeah, but I think at this point, I think we want 3 up and running, where we normally have 2. I think, let's make sure that we've got at least 3 up and running. And, again, if he needs to pull that 4th one, then maybe we can, if we need to, have volunteers from the fire department or sheriff's department or whoever, driving them, as long as they got somebody to work the back, we can make something work there. But, so Mike, your motion is to have at least the 3rd truck up and
The
running.
third truck.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, the park-
the 4th one ready to go.
Yeah.
So are you okay with that, John?
I'm okay with it, I'd like to give Tyler a little bit of flexibility, I don't think he'll have to come back to us, if he needs a fourth one, just give him the authorization to do what he needs and all, and hard what he needs, with a little trust in him on this, but,
Yeah, I'm okay.
yeah,
All right, so you'll second that?
I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay, I'm just gonna make sure I got this one right.
okay.
So the consensus, Mike made the motion to ready the 3rd and 4th truck
Third one,
And-
yeah, go ahead.
and hire, temporary part-time to man the 3rd truck only?
Yes.
Okay,
If we go, I think if we have to go to a fourth truck, then he can always call us and say, hey, can we go 4?
okay.
But
Okay,
But we're manning the 3rd truck and
Yes.
ready in 3rd and 4th?
yes.
Okay.
And I'll make it unanimous.
speaking of that, or speaking of the pandemic, just got a text message, and I'm sure you guys did too, that we now have, with the one that passed away, we have 5 confirmed cases in Scott County.
Yeah.
Yeah, just,
I'll remind you, yesterday we had 1.
Well, this morning we had the second.
Yes.
Two.
And then before the second came out, the third came out, but there were 4 tests that they were waiting for today, so.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and Dr. Rogers, I'm sure it's public record, but he did say that they had tested 54 people, and out of the 54, 4 have tested positive. Actually, 3 have tested positive. 2 of those were from Floyd County that tested down there, and people live here, but, so, yeah. Well, I have one other thing to, and this is about this building being closed down stuff, and I've been kind of thinking about things, services that people aren't getting. How are people paying child support, and how are people receiving child support?
You know, I can't really answer that because I'm not the clerk or the prosecutor's office. I would assume that a lot of child support goes to the state directly because it's taking out people's wages or they've got it deducted that way. Most of it goes through the state, I think. Local things, I'm really not for sure I can't answer how the
Just
clerk's
kinda curious,
handling
'cause
that.
you got people out here I know they're unemployed,
Mhm.
but, or some of them are unemployed, or some of them are still working, but if they're not, and I guess this is where I'm coming with this, is that there's some fees out here that people need to be paying, or should have been paying. We're gonna be a month or so down the road when we open the courthouse back up, those people are gonna be in arrears of a lot of payments, and I mean,
Yeah.
I
I
may,
don't know where we're gonna be then, I mean.
I think part of that, and I don't know how much, but my understanding was that they can pay online, somehow,
Probably
through the
through
clerk's office.
Won't that be an issue for the judge anyway?
Probably.
I mean, he would have to punish them, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah, I think
Well,
so.
I mean,
But what I'm saying, I think, to let
think-
Mike know is I think they have something set up to where they're able to pay their child support
But who's-
online.
I
but
think it's a
who's
state
issuing the
law.
check to the, I mean, heck far is it, are they issuing checks anymore, or they just direct deposit money to the
Probably.
other person's account?
Don't know.
I don't specifically know,
I think
but
there's cards. The state went to cards. kind
So
of
you
like-
have a credit card,
There's a
or
credit
debit card that it debits that card?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
but all of it's not paid through the state either.
No,
Some
not all
people-
of it. I mean, a lot
some
of it
people-
is,
Just pay because
Oh, I know.
they're forced to pay.
Yeah.
yeah.
The ones that pay through the state are the ones that have had some kind of problem generally, or the custodial spouse is on what we used to call Medicaid.
I was just kind of concerned, because there's some people out there, I mean, I'm sure
They're probably
that's
sweating
part of
because
their
they don't know how to
income.
pay their
And-
child support.
And then the other flip of that, you've got a person out here who's trying to pay their, do the right thing, pay their support.
Well, and
keep it
there's
up.
another alternative to that too. You can pay your spouse directly, as long as that spouse turns in a sheet that gives you the credit. There is that one too, because I know there have been people that say the spouse gives them a
I'm gonna tell you right now, I
And
did
then-
that, and that doesn't count.
No,
Yep.
no, that doesn't work.
There's
They don't do that anymore.
They don't, okay, well, they used to a few years ago. I'm
Yeah.
still behind on things.
Yeah, if you're
Some
not,
people-
30 years ago, they didn't do it.
Yeah. Yes.
30 years ago, I used to write a check, and then it didn't work that way.
no, it's a gift because the clerk.
That's
didn't see it.
exactly right.
But somehow this form gets filed by the recipient spouse in the clerk's office, and it's supposed to give them the proper credit. Now
Yeah,
then that may be over with
When
by
you-
now.
when you
That's
go
back in
to-
the old
When
fashioned
you go to
days.
court, they go, no.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, that's all I got. I was just kind of curious about some of these, and there's probably more, but it's more of the fees and stuff, how, but I guess we'll all sort it out.
And to update you guys as well, there is a lockbox now, Dropbox installed on the east side of the courthouse. So that is great because it will help us with these Tuesday, Thursday deposits. Different ones can take care of business through that now, and then the treasurer's office as well.
All right. Andrew?
And also, online tax payments are live
Okay,
and running.
so they can pay their tax bill online.
Absolutely.
Super.
There's a big old property tax button right on the front of the webpage.
And
Make sure.
then going back to speaking about you, the motherboard, I mean, everything up and running, and
Everything's great.
you getting ready to send him a bill?
Possibly. Sorry, Mike.
So I mean, in the 200 years that we've been here, I mean, how many times that computer smoked?
Well, the 6 years I've been here, never, I mean, it's electronic.
Oh, it happens.
It happens, but it is a very detrimental failure, so.
So you were talking earlier about a possible backup. I mean, is there a system that, and I know you got backup that backups every day, so the information in there is safe.
Yeah.
But what kind of money would we have to be talking about to have a system that backs up the system if it?
There is a cluster where you can run two devices together and they sense each other's heartbeat, pretty much. So if one fails, the other one picks back up and takes off. Which to run a cluster, they actually take, I believe, 25% of the price of the device off. Because it's not just another purchased product that you're sitting there, it's actually being in use the whole time and just as a backup. But you're still looking at easy $15,000 for the device, so.
So that versus just another board that if, say this one pukes on you, you can just switch it over. I mean, is that
Yeah,
about the same, I mean, what you're talking, 15,000 or so?
yeah, the clusters, they just sit there beside each other, one dies, the other one goes, okay, I gotta take
All right,
over.
so let me ask the last question here. In that situation that happened the other day, what services were affected the most? And is it something that is so critical that we need to have a backup system?
It is very critical.
I know
The firewall went down, the biggest services that are critical are the phones. Because the main phone systems here at the courthouse, so health department, EMS, highway, they all contact here for phone calls. So if something disrupts here, their phones are out.
What about 911?
911's analog, they stay up and running. But as for running
The internet?
27s and 28s and stuff, that was down. The internet was also down also, so text 911 can be affected too.
Okay.
So it is a very mission critical hardware,
Okay. So it'd be something you'd recommend?
absolutely.
Okay.
Clusters are nice, but at the same time, what if that building takes a hit? You just lost the two devices. So you're better off to have a cluster and a backup offsite somewhere, or just that one at a back up offsite somewhere
Let
else.
me ask you a second question, or a last question again, the next to last question. Is there a service out there that you can purchase a service that backs up or runs with our system and that's not providing another system?
This is a direct hardware device.
Okay.
If there's no, I mean, it does run software, but there's multiple networks plugged into it. It reaches out to all the other buildings, VPNs, it controls everything.
Okay, so it's not where a company could say, hey, we're gonna back up all your stuff, and we'll be your hard drive if something happens to you.
No. Because, I mean, the firewall itself, it does nightly backups also. Its configuration, how everything's run, the VPNs, the firewalls, everything's backed up nightly. So when the new part came in, I went to my office, pushed the backup to it, and it was good to go. Popped it in, plug everything up, fired it up, we're back online.
Okay. So the sheriff's office was affected, 911 was affected, health department was affected. It may be the worst week to be affected.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was all entities.
Okay, we need to think about that too bad.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah,
do you have anything that you'd like to add? We're at the end of the getting ready to adjourn here, but you can certainly add anything you'd like at this point.
no, I think we've covered everything. It's been 2 hours. We've done enough.
Okay, all right. Tammy? Counselor? All right, I guess I've just got a couple things here. One is I guess, first of all, I think on behalf of this board, we certainly want to thank all the doctors, the nurses, the fire departments, the police, everybody that's out here on a daily basis, that's out among people. There are chances of course, contracting the coronavirus is much higher than a lot of us, and I certainly appreciate what they do, and I thank them for it. I guess the next thing is I'm going to say that I hope, and I think Scott County's been real good at this moment. Most people have. The people, I just ask that they take it seriously, and that they do stay home, and if they don't need to go, don't go. I think that's what they're asking us to do. They're trying to flatten that curve, and I'm going to ask that for people that to please try to stay home and abide by the rules. And I think you're going to see the numbers go up, and they've been predicting that all along. But we want to try to keep everybody as healthy and safe as we possibly can.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I did hear that Floyd County is absolutely just blew up down there. I mean, I think they're close to 100 cases down there.
Yeah.
And actually, as I walked in, Washington County's got 7. I think Jefferson County's got 8, I think. So,
Again, and I think that's what they, they have predicted all along that the numbers was going to go up, and I think they're saying that for Scott County and for southern Indiana, that that's one of the reasons that they are saying that you're probably looking at the middle of April to the end of April before this thing actually peaks and starts back down the other way. So we certainly want to try to, I guess, ask everybody to try to limit what you, if it's not essential, don't go out for it. Don't need to. And so I'd like to ask that on behalf of the medical personnel and everybody that's involved with this. And I guess the last thing that I do want to say is, and I'm going to say this to Commissioner Jones here, is Mike, you know that I've known you not all my life, and I hope you do know that my decision and your decision, and we can agree to disagree, and it's certainly not personal towards you. And believe it or not, I've said this all along, is I think it makes, sometimes I think it makes for better government when you do have people that has different opinions, and you know, because I always said if everybody's agreeing all the time, somebody's probably lying anyway, so.
I used to say
I disagree with everything you're saying.
All right, John, I'll entertain a motion and John, stay safe out there and we'll entertain a motion and I'll expect you to give that. How's that?
I'll make a motion.
All right, motion made to adjourn, second.
second.
We're out of here. Thank you, John. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Where's
Bye.